991.1 Carrera can sit on your screen right now for about 58 grand. The engine inside that car can hand you a $42,000 bill, and the ugly part isn't bad luck. It's engineering risk, meeting age, and mileage. Before we get into the engine, look at the bill structure. Machine work, parts, labor, removal, and reinstall. Shipping if the engine goes out. Taxes. I want that running tally in the corner for this whole video, because every time one of these weak spots shows up, the number climbs, and by the end, that $42,000 number needs to make exact sense as an all-in hit, not just some scary parts quote on its own. And later, I'm going to show you the resale cliff too, the point where the market stops caring about your maintenance records and starts pricing the car like a distressed asset. That part matters just as much as the engine bill, because an expensive repair only makes sense if the car is still worth saving. This matters because the MA1 got sold as the clean sheet fix, Porsche's first direct injection flat six that finally left the old nightmares behind. But the bills showing up now tell a different story. There are 5 mechanical landmines in this engine family. To see why the invoice gets so high, start with the metal. Bore scoring stops being forum chatter the second you see the bore scope image. Deep vertical lines. Aluminum dragged down the wall. One cylinder starting to look like it lost a fight with its own piston. Once that starts, the car usually tells on itself. One exhaust tip goes dark. Oil use climbs. Idle gets rough. And the owner starts bargaining with noises. The MA1 family cut this risk hard compared with the old M96 and M97. So let's be fair about that. Bore scoring on a 991.1 is rare, not zero, and the documented cases that do show up tend to land right where used buyers shop, roughly 40 to 110,000 miles. Most of the threads and shop talk center on 3.8-liter cars, and the danger zone keeps pointing back to cylinders 5 and 6, where heat and stress stack up fastest. Look at these 2 cylinders. One is healthy. One is headed toward a brutal invoice, and if you think you can spot it in 3 seconds, the way most buyers judge a used 911 from photos, pick one now. That little test tells you why the eye test fails. Mild scoring can hide, and there is no public VIN break that makes a late 991.1 safe on paperwork alone, because Porsche never gave buyers a clean public cutoff for a revised ring pack. So the only cheap early warning is data. Oil analysis first, then a real bore scope on all 6 cylinders, especially 5 and 6. Because that's where these engines most often start telling the truth. If a seller refuses a $30 oil test on a $58,000 car, walk. Right now, comment which landmine scares you most, bore scoring or the Wastegate. I read every one, because the answers decide what I tear down next. Then you get the direct injection tax, and this one hits healthy engines too. Fuel goes straight into the chamber. The intake valves lose that old fuel wash, and oil vapor starts baking onto the backs of the valves until idle slips. Airflow drops, and throttle response gets dull. Heavy carbon by 60,000 miles isn't some freak event on these cars. It's normal aging, which means walnut blasting turns into maintenance instead of rescue, and you're looking at roughly $1,800 to $2,500 every 40,000 miles, depending on labor and scope. So now the tally moves again. The engine may still run fine, but the ownership math already changed, and deeper in the car there are cooling parts that turn a small leak into a big access bill. This is the sleeper issue buyers almost never price in because you can't see it in the listing photos. On a 991.1, the failure usually starts with the coolant pump or the reservoir, then spreads into the pipes, seals, and support hardware around them, because this whole system lives through years of heat cycles and pressure changes until plastic gets brittle, seals flatten out, and one weak connection starts weeping. The pump is the first part to watch because it sits at the rear of the car, does real work every mile, and when it starts leaking, you usually don't get a dramatic failure first. You get residue, smell, a slow drop in level, and then a repair bill. The reservoir is the same story. It cracks, the bleeder area becomes a problem, or the tank itself ages out, and now a cheap molded part starts a labor-heavy job. Porsche issued targeted fixes here. WKJ7 covers the coolant pump. WG42 covers the reservoir. Then there is the separate water tube retaining bar bulletin, the one that adds support at the regulator housing with updated hardware and a set torque spec, 13 Newton meters, because Porsche was trying to control movement in a place where movement gets expensive. These aren't forum rumors. These are Porsche's own bulletin numbers admitting the failure pattern. That matters because there isn't one giant 991.1 coolant pipe recall you can point to and relax. What you have instead is a stack of targeted fixes: pump, reservoir, then support hardware. And if those fixes were missed, the next owner gets the bill. Now get to the access tax, because that's the payload. The parts are not the scary part. The labor is. To reach this stuff, the shop starts stripping space around the back of the drivetrain. Underbody panels come off, shields come off, rear silencers often come off. The belt gets moved off the pump pulley. Hoses and lines get detached. Coolant gets drained. And depending on which pipe or joint failed, the engine gets partially lowered or dropped farther for working room. On some jobs, that access bill is the job. And once it's open, the repair can't be rushed. Sealing faces have to be cleaned. Every disturbed O-ring and seal should be replaced. The system needs to be vacuum filled, not just topped off, and it needs to be bled stone cold so you don't trap air and send the car back with a hot spot still hiding in the system. That's why "it just needs a hose" is usually seller language, not invoice language. A seep sounds small, a fitting sounds small, a tube sounds small. Then the shop has to earn access before it can even touch the failed part, and that's where the invoice turns. Some jobs need partial engine lowering. Some shops go engine out because doing the job twice costs more than doing it once. So if a seller says it just needs a hose, hear the whole sentence. It needs a hose, access, coolant work done cold, and a proper refill. That's how a small leak turns into the next domino. And we're only 3 landmines in. The tally's at 14.7. The 2 that follow are the ones that actually total the car as an investment. If you're shopping a turbo, the next domino gets worse because the failure usually doesn't stay isolated. The Wastegate actuator sounds small, but it controls wastegate position, boost behavior, drivability, and fault logic. So when it starts drifting, you don't get one clean symptom. You get fault codes, limp mode, uneven boost, and a diagnosis bill before the repair bill even starts. This is also where turbo owners talk themselves into feeling safe. They paid more up front. The car feels stronger. The badge says turbo. And in their head, that means the engine is somehow above the used car math hitting a base Carrera. It isn't. A turbo can dodge bore scoring panic and still hit you with a forced induction repair stack that burns through the same budget just as fast. Because boost hardware adds heat, complexity, and labor before the wrench even turns. These actuators live right next to heat and vibration. And once one side starts acting up, most specialists stop treating it like a one-part repair. Twin turbo cars age in pairs. One side may throw the code first, but the other side has lived the same heat, the same miles, and the same wear. And diagnosis matters here because wastegate problem can mean a few different things. Sometimes it's the actuator. Sometimes it's the arm or linkage. Sometimes the flap inside the turbo housing has enough wear that the cheap fix dies young, and the real answer is a full turbocharger assembly. That's why smart owners ask the shop to split the quote into diagnosis, actuator or lever repair, gaskets, oil lines, and labor, because the spread between a targeted fix and a dealer-style assembly swap is huge. So pair replacement is usually the smart move. Doing one side looks cheaper on paper, then the other side fails and you pay the labor twice. On these cars, access keeps punishing half measures. A full turbocharger assembly replacement usually lands around $5,764 to $6,164 for one side, and parts alone can sit near $4,907. So for this running tally, keep the $8,000 jump as a conservative pair repair reserve, because some cars get actuator or linkage fixes instead of 2 full dealer-level turbo swaps. If you're looking at a used turbo priced just low enough to feel clever, this is one of the repairs that wipes out that discount almost immediately. And it does it on a car buyers keep calling the safe choice. This is where the ownership story stops being mechanical and starts becoming financial. One owner posts 6 figures with fluids and tires. Another posts bore scope photos and a rebuild quote that looks like a second down payment. Both stories can be true at the same time, and that is exactly why forum confidence doesn't protect you. Inspection does. The 997.2 got market support because buyers decided it had scarcity, feel, and a cleaner story. The 991.1 never got that floor. It sits in the awkward middle. Not old enough to feel untouchable, not new enough to dodge age-related bills, and not special enough for the market to forgive a huge repair. Once mileage climbs, the discount gets sharper because informed buyers know what to ask and sellers know what they hope you won't ask. A 90,000-mile 991.1 without a recent bore scope isn't a collector car, it's a risk transfer. Buying a 991.1 on listing price instead of inspection file is the idiot tax. You're not saving 15 grand. You're prepaying a Wastegate job you haven't been quoted yet. That is how the title number works. It's not just one shop invoice or one scary parts number. It's the rebuild risk, the maintenance drag, the access tax, the turbo bill if you're shopping one, and then the resale haircut when the market stops caring about your records and starts pricing the car like a distressed asset. And that $42,000 figure only makes sense when you count the whole hit together. Engine work, removal and reinstall, shipping and taxes, the stuff buyers love to ignore right until the estimate lands in their inbox. Not every MA1 is radioactive, and pretending otherwise weakens the case. The safe buy matrix is simple: smart climate history, regular annual mileage, short oil intervals, clean oil analysis, full PIWIS scan, and a cold engine bore scope on all 6 cylinders with special attention to 5 and 6. Low miles alone don't save you here. Sometimes they make the story worse. The 991.1 is still a great driver's car, but as a used buy, it only works when the inspection file is stronger than the listing price. You want the mileage story. You want proof the oil wasn't left in there forever. You want those coolant campaigns checked. You want a bore scope on all 6 cylinders, with a real attention on 5 and 6, because that's where this engine family usually starts drawing blood. The Mezger outlives you. The MA1 bleeds you. Next video, the 9A1. The engine that shows what Porsche was before the balance sheet started charging interest.